Good afternoon. My name is Marie. I'm the Education Director here at the Minnesota Transportation Museum. I am so thrilled today for our adult lecture series. We have the incredible Warren Plaisance coming to talk. I know. He is a board member here at MTM, has been volunteering for many, many years. And we are so thankful that he is here today to talk about his experience with the Gritty Palace and bringing the Gritty Palace from Chicago here to MTM. He is going to tell the story of that experience and all of the amazing work he put into that experience and bringing it here to share with our visitors. So join me in welcoming Warren.
Well, first of all, once again, thank you all for coming today. I really appreciate you supporting MTM and being here at the Jackson Street Roundhouse. I am, of course, Warren, as Marie got me introduced to you, and I am going to share probably for me one of my life highlights. We're going to talk in about 3 different parts today. We have the first part, which is finding out about the Gritty Palace and its acquisition through the Pugh family, who bequeathed the car to us back in May of 2022. We had discussions in the office about how the car was going to wind up from North Carolina, where it was being worked on at the Spencer shops of the North Carolina Transportation Museum. While the discussions were going on, the thought occurred to me that, well, it was always my dream to be a railroad chef, and this might be the one chance that I'd have in my life to fulfill that dream. So the first part of the trip was to make a preamble trip down with Bob Pulston. He's the, let's call him the electrician, plumber. He's the tech guy. And so he and I made a trip down in June of 2022. And while we were preparing to make the trip down, there were some emails that went back and forth with Bob Willits, who was the one who was working on the car. And Bob sent a few emails back and said, "Who are you? I'm not going to talk to you until I get some sort of legal documentation from the family." Okay, well, so we got all that taken care of, and long story short, we flew down there, and our first view of the car was here. This is down in Spencer, North Carolina, and we didn't know anything. This was part of why we made the first trip, was just we didn't know what shape the car was in. We didn't know what was equipped in the car. We didn't know much of anything. So this first trip was just to find out everything we needed to know so that when we made the actual trip back, we were fully prepared for whatever we needed to do. So I made a few trips before we went on the trip. I wrote these in the car. And I said, my notes at this point were, it's been a very interesting couple of days. Bob and I did arrive on time on separate flights. And because the first flight we were on was canceled, thank you so much for that, American Airlines. So we made this first trip down. We found the car, which wasn't easy, and we talked to, this is Bob Willits down there, and he's the one that's been working on the car for the Pugh family. Once we got to know Bob, this Southern gentleman, things worked much, much better. So you have to make friends with the people down there, and then they're going to help you as much as they possibly can. And he was a big help. He knew more about this car than anybody. And Bob went over all of the electrical, mechanical items that needed to be known by our Bob in order to maintain all of the different systems. Those systems included a generator, heating and air conditioning. We have brown water systems. which is for the toilets and wastewater, and the good water. So he has to know about all this stuff before we could bring it back. In the kitchen, I was thinking like, well, what was there to use and what worked? I did some testing. I made sure the microwave worked. I made sure that the stove worked, all of the range top worked, and the refrigerator worked. And what was in all the cabinets? What pots and pans? What other things were there for us to work with? And there was nothing. It was completely devoid of any kind of equipment other than the appliances. I had to make sure that the refrigerator worked. Does the refrigerator work? Where's the refrigerator? And the funny thing is that the refrigerator isn't even inside the car. It's on the rear vestibule and then has these metal rods that go in front of the refrigerator and the freezer so that no matter how much the car's jostling, nothing the door's not going to pop open in the meantime. So here we are, we're down there on our second trip down. This is then getting ready for our trip. We were down there for 2 weeks before we got back to St. Paul. The first week was getting the car ready, and then we had to deal with some other issues. The issues included the air conditioner stopped working in the middle of July in North Carolina. It's hot in North Carolina in July. And we got it fixed. They did everything they could to get it fixed. Then the plumbing stopped working. The toilet wouldn't work. What's that on the right there at the bottom there? What's in there? Why, that's a Royal Flush, a new toilet. So we got that taken care of. We've got one operational toilet for the trip back, so we're doing okay. And then we had problems with the brakes. The brakes were not working right. So we got there about Tuesday of the first week, and then by Friday evening, we're all set to go. The next step in the process is that we had to get bedding, made sure that like I said before, that the plumbing worked. This is the shower, which is really good because we're going to be on the car for a while. Now, it is Friday evening after the first week. This is going to be the first movement of this car in years. This is the crew from the North Carolina Transportation Museum, and they are coupling up the car to an idler passenger car, and they're going to move it out to the end of their yard trackage. Right behind them is the Norfolk Southern main line. Then we get a call. Well, there's a little problem with the track. They're out of gauge. The rails have spread a little bit, and they can't get the car any farther. So there's Bob on the left and the other guys. So we're down there, and they don't know what's going to go on. Now, we find out later that they called Norfolk Southern. They came out, they fixed the rails, and then the car is going to be left on the siding. Just past, right there on the right, there is a grade crossing. That's where the rails went out of gauge. And the switch right behind that is Norfolk Southern rails. So the plan is that the car is going to be here somewhere between Sunday evening and when we leave on the trip on Friday, so they get a whole week. Norfolk Southern is going to take a whole week to get our car to the yard at the depot. Bob and I made several trips from our hotel back to kind of check on things and make sure the car was where it was supposed to be. So, because we don't know. We don't know if everything's working out where it's supposed to be. So in the evening after dinner, we're going back down to the museum and we're checking to make sure that the car's in where it's supposed to be. Has it been moved? Yes, the car has been moved. So later on, during that second week, we see this is the yard right next to the depot, and Norfolk Southern has delivered the car to Charlotte. Yay. Now we're up to where we're gonna take our trip, and I'm gonna leave out. I'm gonna go over a couple of notes that I took at that time. First of all, the yellow dot, or the gold dot, and the yellow route marks where we are in Charlotte, North Carolina. We are going to be leaving Friday, July 15th at 6:45 a.m. to arrive in Washington, D.C. at 4:30 in the afternoon. This is the Carolinian Amtrak Train 80. The next day, we are going to depart Washington, D.C. at 4:05 p.m. on that Saturday on the Capital Limited Amtrak Train 29, which is going to go from Washington, D.C. up through Virginia, northern part of Maryland and West Virginia. And then we're going to go up through Pittsburgh, and then on along the old New York Central to Chicago, and we're going to drive on Sunday at 8:45 a.m. From Chicago, we're going to leave then the following day on Amtrak number 7, the Empire Builder, at 2:30 in the afternoon, and then getting into St. Paul Union Depot Monday at 10:03 p.m. All those trips were on time. All right, let me back up a little bit and go through a couple more of my notes here. So it's Friday evening, we dropped off the car, we've got everything functioning, and now it's going to be the next day, Saturday, and we're going to be buying a few more items. Bob is going to be checking out a few more systems yet tomorrow. That should pretty much wrap up our preparation for the car. And like I said, it's going to be moving by Norfolk Southern. Then, we still have from Sunday until Friday before we leave. So we have like we have a whole week, whole work week. So what are we doing during that time? We're getting some other equipment. We're at an extended stay motel because they have kitchens. Kitchens have refrigerators. I can buy all the food I need and store it in the refrigerator at my hotel room before the trip. We also have to go and get some other equipment for the trip that we didn't know about, like walkie-talkies to communicate with the Amtrak conductor while underway. Do you know, we didn't realize, it's hard to find a decent walkie-talkie anymore. They just don't have them for sale in many of the places that we used to be able to get them. So we did find them. I think it was at Joe's Sporting Goods. All right, so now we have to do some more figuring out when we get everything all set to go. We're going to load up. We rented a pickup truck, and what we have to do is we have to get to the station at 3 o'clock in the morning so that we can unload all of the food, all of the gear from our truck into the Gritty Palace in the Norfolk Southern yards. Fortunately, we found the contact information for the Amtrak roadmaster, and he was able to get us by escort into the yards of Norfolk Southern in order to unload everything from the truck into the Gritty Palace at 3 o'clock in the morning. Then Bob stayed behind, and I took the truck back to the airport where we rented the truck, and then I got in a cab and came back down to the depot. It was only like a five miles away from the airport to the depot, so it wasn't that much trouble. So there's a lot of messing around. Then we had to not get on board, but we had to go back into the station because Amtrak would not let us board our car until 6 o'clock in the morning. So we're kind of hanging out for a couple hours. This is Bob. Bob is so great. He was out there doing everything he could to make all the equipment work properly. It's quite a sophisticated system with all of the generators and the heaters and the pumps and everything that it takes to keep the thing running properly. So this is about 5:30 in the morning. They are going to take the engine in our car and they're going to couple it to the train, and we're going to be off at 6:30 in the morning. I love this picture. This is just awesome. That's downtown Charlotte. We got a nice moon coming out in the clouds there. Beautiful morning, and we are on our way. We left right on time. This is Raleigh, and nice mural right across the street from the depot. I had my first chefy duties of trying to make something cook in the car. So because we had the Roadmaster along for the first hour, I baked some cinnamon rolls. We had coffee and juice, and it was just nice to be able to finally sit in the car, start to figure out how things work, see if I could actually bake and cook in the car. So what I found out right away was every moment demanded my attention to stay braced for the ever-shifting motion. I had my hand at baking chocolate chip cookies from scratch. That was a big win. So that was my next attempt. And what I'm trying to do, like I said, is to learn the special conditions of a rolling kitchen and just working my way through different meals to get myself acclimated to cooking in a 79 mile an hour rolling kitchen. Now, we're on our way down there, and before we this is Washington, D.C., we're going to get there that afternoon. We have a radio in the back of the car that's tuned in, if you want to the cruise transmissions. And while we're sitting there, on our way up through Virginia, around Richmond, we hear the engineer says on the radio, he goes, "Hey, what's that thing you're hauling behind your engine?" And the engineer on our train goes, "Oh, it's just a private car." And the other engineer says, "Amtrak 80, you're looking good, out." That was it. I just thought it was interesting, the whole thing. Okay, so we arrive on time and are spotted on track 30 and stayed there until the very next day. Larry Paulson, I don't know if he's here, but Larry is also an integral person with the passenger cars that we have here. And he had a friend of his, I'll talk about his friend later, but so they're waiting for us, and we didn't know about this earlier, but they came and boarded the car in Washington, D.C. and helped out. You know what they helped with? They helped with serving the food, which is awesome. Made it easier on me, that's for sure. So the ground crews come out, and they fill our water tank and then provide what they call wet ice. I suppose that's what they said over the radio. Do you need wet ice? Instead of dry, I suppose dry ice, they would also provide that. But that's part of the service that they provide to private cars that are using Amtrak. So while we're there, this is good too. My next meal today is French toast and bacon. That worked out pretty well. I'm working my way up to cooking for the big dinner later on. So while we're there, there's Bob. Bob's underneath the car. In order for Bob to do that, you need to put out a blue flag. However, they have this cool thing in Washington Union Station. Way out there, up above, right, that looks like a police light, that is their version of a blue flag. Bob has to call the station master and ask that the track be blue flagged, and then they have that flashing blue light going on, which is, you all know what that means. That means no one can do anything on that track because there's people working under the car. I thought that was kind of cool. I haven't seen that before. We find the drum head underneath the couch inside the car. So I pull that out, and I thought, that would look really cool if we had that on the rest of our trip back. And there's a little plug in there on the side of the post on the left-hand side there, and it didn't work. However, Larry is working on cleaning the windows in the back of the car. They were kind of a little frosted a little bit, and they were trying to figure out some way to get them clean. So they were going to make a trip to Home Depot and pick up some supplies, and said, "Hey, how about a new light bulb for the drum head?" And they did, and it worked. So what is Bob trying to do? Bob is trying to trace the water cutoff valve for the piping underneath the car to provide water for the main toilet, which he's been trying to get working this whole time. He tried so hard, and it just never worked out. But anyway, I appreciate that. While we're there, after the French toast in the morning, made the tour to the station to find a florist shop because you need fresh flowers on the table. Since we're at Washington Station, they have lots and lots of shopping stops there. So they found a florist shop, and they asked me what the car looked like, and so they did a bit of coordination of the colors and the flowers to match what we had in the car. So they were so nice. So they made this arrangement for us that we put on the table. Okay, now, here we are. We have left Washington, D.C. on the Capitol Limited. Before we leave, more anxious moments because the brake pistons on the brakes are not retracting as well as they should. And there's a moment when we fear our departure is on the line. The situation clears up to the satisfaction of the car inspectors, and we depart on time. Definitely the scenic highlight of the Capitol Limited for us was the stop at Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. And there's if you look up in the upper left-hand corner, there is a painted part of the rock outcrop for some kind of powder. It's been there since about 1900. I thought that was kind of cool. So Harper's Ferry, West Virginia is there, and then dinner that evening. This will be the first dinner that we've served on board, and it's going to be Caesar salad and Alfredo chicken pasta. It was really easy because it's just Costco stuff you just pop in the oven, but it worked out pretty well for us. We watered again when stopped in Pittsburgh. There we are. We're on our way. There's just a casual dinner. Remember those chocolate chip cookies I made earlier in the day? Cookies and ice cream. It was great. So like I said, we watered again while stopped in Pittsburgh in the middle of the night. Morning brings a foggy scene across Indiana. Somebody sent this to me from a virtual rail friend, and this is us going through Elkhart, Indiana. It's kind of hard to get a view like that when you're riding the train, but someone was nice enough to send me that. All right, because it's breakfast again. It's a foggy morning in Indiana as we munch on a breakfast of scrambled eggs, sausage, and toast. And we arrive, like I said, on time in Chicago Union Station. Okay, now I titled this part, Where's the Beef? I wasn't impressed with the selection of prime rib roasts in the Charlotte area. I tried several sources but had a backup plan. We left Charlotte without the beef roast I needed for the Empire Builder dinner. Chicago is the location where I have made special arrangements for a family friend to deliver my boneless prime rib roast. This is Nick and her son, and he, fortunately and lucky enough for me, he is a butcher in a restaurant meat supply house, and they offered to bring the roast out to the car. It was a bit scary for me because I'm going all this way and I don't have the main course for the dinner that like a full car is going to enjoy on the way home that I'm going to be cooking. So it worked out. Sometimes things work out the best. I did have a backup plan beyond that, but that was going to be a bit harder. Anyway, I thanked them. They got a chance to tour the car while I was there. I got a call from her as soon as we were spotted there, and she said, "We're here at the visitor center. We're waiting for you." Instead of walking all the way down, we just took her car, and I just told her to drive through the yard over to here and out on the platform. I got in a little trouble for that one, but everybody's nice. So then my next part is called a late night why. Oh, wasn't that a nice shot? After we pulled out of Chicago Union Station Sunday morning back to the maintenance shops, they turned the whole Capitol Limited to get it in the right direction for the trip back the next day. But guess what? When they did that, they left us facing the wrong direction for tomorrow's trip on the Empire Builder. So Bob talked to the Amtrak yardmaster. We were going to be facing the wrong direction for what we paid for. And they needed to turn us around again tonight all by ourselves so that we would be facing the correct direction for tomorrow. Late night Y. It's 9:51 p.m. as my notes say, and we are currently being turned around on a Y going past the Metro commuter yard. powered by Amtrak 519 with a single diesel with just our car. We're going to be spotted on a different track, and then later that night, we're going to be turned around and then start building the Empire Builder train around us. This movement puts us in the right direction so that we will have the back of the Gritty Palace on the builder. Dinner preparations have been going on since Sunday afternoon. Brownies have been baked, and someone sent an email saying, could you make a birthday cake? We have a 12-year-old coming for a surprise. This whole trip is a surprise to the 12-year-old. Could you make him a birthday cake? Sure, why not? So we got the brownies made, we got the birthday cake made. Late in the evening, I put out pans of dinner rolls to thaw and rise overnight. Then they're going to go in the oven right away the next morning. And then for breakfast, oh, these were good. We had bacon, egg, and cheese bagel sandwiches for a casual working meal because we're all working real hard to get ready for the day. Leaving a note for myself at 12:25 p.m., we are just about ready for our move over to the platform at Chicago Union Station. Tom and Larry have been polishing all the glassware, taking it out of the cases, and placing them on the shelves for the buffet. Getting our champagne and our non-alcoholic stuff all iced up and ready to go. I'll show you where that is. It's a cool spot way back in the buffet, in the pantry. Here's our roasts. The roasts are tempering on the stove, which means they're just taken out of the refrigerator and they're just let it to warm up to room temperature before they go into the oven. They're going to go in the oven at 1 o'clock at 250 degrees. And I've been polishing the stainless steel, putting away more glassware, and just going around and checking to see that everything is put away and neat and tidied up in the car. And then we have another great moment in that the inspector questioned the thickness of our brake shoes. So are we going to make this trip or not? Fortunately, a little later, a carman came to the back door and rang the doorbell. There's a doorbell on back there. Oh, how homey is that? And he says this. He hands me a form. He says that all the inspections are complete and we're all set to go. We got 4 more bags of ice, refilled our water tanks, and we are all provisioned. Now we're just waiting to move down to the station. Here we are at the platform. This is the end of the Empire Builder, and I got into a special uniform for the event because I'm the cook. Cooks get to look like a cook. A few photos were taken, and the Gritty crew met our passengers on the platform, and we started the last leg home to St. Paul with a very full car. Every seat was filled with our guests. To kick off the trip, a champagne toast to the Pugh family for making all this possible. And then we also had someone with an anniversary. We had a toast for them too. And then we said a little toast to the, I didn't catch the name of the 12-year-old, but his birthday. So we celebrated him as well. And there's Mari Pugh. Yay! She came aboard to help. She was in the kitchen on the pantry side. We are getting ready to start plating up our wedge salads. She was great. She helped me the whole trip. After we had our toast, we had our Wisconsin, I call them Wisconsin, brandy old fashions. That was our cocktail of choice for the dinner. And we had that accompanied with a relish tray and a nod to the southern state of the Gritty, and I made a batch of pimento cheese spread. Because the dining table can only seat 8 at a time, I scheduled 2 seatings at 5:30 and 7:30. And we had our wedge salad, rolls, 16-ounce prime rib, baked potato, au jus, not baked potato au jus, just we had a cup of au jus, and sour cream. Cabernet Sauvignon was the paired red wine. Doesn't that look good? I was jacked about it. After both seatings were concluded, we served chocolate brownie sundae to everyone aboard, and followed that up with a 10-year-old tawny port or coffee, whatever you'd like to have. And we arrived on time in St. Paul, and our full guest departed at the platform. Bob and I accompanied the car onward to the old Midway station, where the car was spotted until ultimately shuffled to Northtown Yard and then to Jackson Street Roundhouse by BNSF. While the car is at Midway Yard before they moved it, I had a couple days to remove all the glassware, silverware, and china in batches to run through my dishwasher and return to the rail car. All perishable food was removed and the galley and pantry got a good cleaning. We tried to do some dishwashing aboard the car. At 79 miles an hour going through Wisconsin, we're trying to wash dishes, and the sink is half full of soapy water, and we go over a rough patch, and all the water, you can just watch it go, whoop, whoop, back down. So we lost, it's like, you really couldn't wash properly in the car, not to our standards. So when the trip was over, I thought, that was a lot of hard work, and questioned, would I do it again, and would I? Now, I would do it again in a heartbeat if I had the chance. Now, the Gritty, look at those guys. They're having a good time, right? I even recognize some of these people. Very good. Here we are back in St. Paul. So, what I wanted to mention was I invite all of you to take a look through the Gritty Palace. I have set it up as it was on the Empire Builder when we left Chicago. The table setting is exactly as it was. The buffet is set up exactly as it was. And so if you would like to take a tour through there, I'll be in the car there. But once again, thank you so much for coming out. I know that Marie is going to have another speaker in May, but we don't know what that is yet, but we have some ideas. Yes?
So did you lose any of your food off the stove at 75 miles an hour, 79 miles?
Yes. I lost half my au jus. I had a pot of au jus, and that was like the most liquidy thing that was prone. Half of it spilled onto the stove while I was making. I did have enough left, but just barely. So that was one. Yes?
How was the trip financed?
Through donations. Do you know the people that rode the train from Chicago to St. Paul? All of those guests paid a very generous donation in order to make that trip. And their purchase of tickets and that donation financed the movement of the train from Charlotte to St. Paul. Anybody else with a question? Oh, right here.
When are you going to open your own restaurant?
Never.
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 You've had your fill of it.
Yeah. However, because I love the dining car, the menus, the recipes. If you didn't know, there are 4 displays along this wall and over there where I've tried to recreate 4 of the different railroad dishes for the newsletter, which I'm the editor of. And so there are recipe cards that I wrote of 4 different railroads menu items that they were well known for. So those are on here. So I do love that. I do love that cooking part, and especially the recipes from the. I've got a dozen different railroad cookbooks, so they're all out there. Any other questions? Thank you all. Thank you, Larry. Larry was there. A couple others of you were there. I'm going to go over to the Gritty. If you want to come over there, I have a few extra of the menus that I created that you can take with you. We have our champagne toast. We have our Cabernet Sauvignon for dinner. Before dinner, we have a selection of non-alcoholic drinks. We also have all the makings here for our Wisconsin brandy old fashions. We have our brandy. We have our Demerara sugar. We have our bitters. We have orange that we're going to do into slices for muddling. And of course, you have to have, Thank you so much. We have to have our maraschino, our Luxardo maraschino cherries. They're the best for that. And of course, after dinner we have our port, 10-year-old port, and then coffee, if you whichever way you would prefer to go. We had one night that we slept while the train was going between Washington D.C. and Chicago. We slept on the car other nights, but those were in the stations. But we had the one night there on the trip to Chicago, because we didn't leave until the middle of the afternoon on Washington D.C. and then got into Chicago at 8 o'clock the next morning.
How was it sleeping as it was moving? Did it rock you to
It was
sleep?
wonderful. It was wonderful, yeah. And there was something magical about getting up in the morning, having a cup of coffee, sitting in these two chairs that faced the rear way, and you're going through Indiana, and it's just foggy as can be. That was something ethereal, maybe, but just having that coffee and looking out the back, and you couldn't see more than maybe a couple hundred feet down the tracks was all. Yeah.
And you weren't allowed on the platform.
We can talk about that. So Amtrak has a rule. You may not occupy the platform when the train is in motion. So what we would do is when you're in a station, you would go out on the platform and just kind of stand there and talk to people on the platform, on the station platform, because they wanted to ask us questions. You know, what is this car? Where's it going? So we did a lot of that, but only when we're stopped at the stations.
So how did you get the food from the kitchen down to the table here?
So I was in the galley portion, and I was carving the meats, and then I had Mari Pugh help me plate the service, and then I had Larry and his friend, and they would take the trays. We have trays,
Okay.
and they would bring it down the hallway, and then serve it to the guests.
Yeah.
Very efficient. That's how you do it.
No, that's a lot of people too, though, to serve in that manner. That's a pretty
Yeah.
good job.
And another thing is that hallway is very narrow.
And the
It's
train's
a
moving, right?
one way, yes, and nobody dropped a plate of food the whole way either. So we were very lucky there as well. Yeah. So let's talk about how many people the car can sleep. So we have in the 2 bedrooms that are closest to me, the largest bedrooms, each of them have at least one Pullman berth that folds down from the overhead that opens up. So each of those bedrooms sleeps 2 to 3. And then you have the secretary's room, which has the Pullman berth that comes down. And then also the seats go together to have a bed down below. Then there is the cruise bedroom that has the same setup with the bed, the Pullman bed that comes down, and then the one down between the seats. And then so that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 9 to 10 is how many you can sleep. We also have, we believe, over here, we have some hooks up here in the ceiling and on the wall, and we believe those are for curtains, and that the couch at one point could be remade into a bed, and curtains around that for a little bit of privacy.